Which do you prefer?
I think if the guy is like genuinely a good guy and actually interested in her, like for more than just her physical looks and her appearance and the fact that she can pop out 20 babies, like there's actually like care for her, then I think that a 35-year-old, 21-year-old, it's pushing it from my personal opinion. But I think that to your point, would be a better scenario than her.
Does it change if she's 40?
What do you,
sorry. Excuse me. Does it change if he's 40?
I just wonder why, like, out of all.
No, but okay. So the question is, in this scenario, he's a good guy, monogamous, wants a long-term relationship with her.
It raises more questions for me.
Right. But would you rather see her in the situation with the older man, who wants to have a long-term monogamous relationship with her, is not going to cheat, going to be loyal, or for her to just be hoeing around and sleep with 20 frat boys her age? Which would you prefer to see?
I mean, I prefer them both to be settled and happy.
That's not the question. That's not the question. Answer the question.
Stage of their life.
There's two options. Which would you prefer to see?
The 21-year-old and the 35-year-old?
Okay, so I changed it to 40. So
Okay. I
21-year-old
think it's
with the
starting to
40-year-old.
get weird at 40. But
Yes,
I do
you've
prefer,
already said that.
I know, but I was in the middle of saying I would prefer to see them both like settled and happy. And again, it's a little uncomfortable for me, but I would prefer that for both of them.
Over
yes.
her sleeping with men
And him,
her
but
age.
yes. Yeah.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, because it's really common in these particular red pill settings that like.
Is this a red pill setting?
Come on.
Are you fucking
there's
retarded?
options there,
I'm
so-
sorry, what?
There was an option.
Bro,
there.
you
Anyways.
dropped the prop.
Well, I didn't know it was going to come out.
Well, I mean, probably shouldn't play with props.
Brian, you don't need to be so rude.
Could I make a comment as soon as?
Like, why would you call me fucking retarded?
Because, I mean, you dropped the prop. It's on the floor now. You haven't done anything to pick it up.
Well, I would, but I'm a little distracted by you calling me fucking retarded.
Yeah, I mean, here's the tone policing again. So,
No, you're right.
is this a rage quit?
Like
No,
other.
I'm not rage quitting. You're just so disrespectful. Like, who?
You
But it's
literally,
disrespectful.
yeah.
Hang on. Listen, hang on. It's been super hostile. Let's finish the You don't want to finish the
I
convo?
love you, Andrew, but I'm not going to be called fucking retarded.
It was kind of fucking
She
retarded.
was also
hear
insulting
me
and
drive.
the mental illness and
It was
the,
a little.
I don't want to hear the
Could-
rage.
Can I make a quick
Oh,
comment?
that's serious with me, girl.
Well, you know, hey, it happens.
I can agree with you on that one.
Yo, Desmond, you can't be on your phone right now, man. Are we?
So we sing a song. Happy birthday to you. No, I'm just kidding.
Are we
It's
off
not
the
that
topic,
serious.
or can I still comment on this?
Yeah,
The sticks and stones can make my guys work.
What happened to that?
Doesn't exist anymore.
We need to start bullying people again.
Bring bullying
I
back.
know.
Bring
Yeah,
bullying
no.
back.
Some people need some thicker skin.
What's up?
It's not even.
Everything makes my eyes roll.
Huh?
I'm going to tell you right now. You can
I
tell
got
me
Desmond on
you
recording.
hate chicken,
Okay.
and I'll be like, well, that's dumb. But that's just my face.
I mean, we need you to.
Can
we
I
need
still
you to
comment?
leave. We need you to leave. You can't just
Please.
be hanging out back there.
I'm putting my shoes on.
Okay.
Unless you want to come back, participate in the panel. You don't. You can still come back, participate in the panel. Come on. I know for sure you've heard way worse than anything that's on this panel.
The minute we all got here, I don't know he can hear me.
Tell you what, I'll apologize for calling you a retard if you sit back down.
That's fair.
Apologize for
That is
calling
fair.
men mentally ill.
It'll be a genuine apology.
That's fair.
Wait, we can't.
I mean, we were having a good time. It was a good discussion, honestly. I would like to get back to it.
I mean, did she not call you guys mentally ill and disgusting?
Sorry, say that louder.
Did she guys not comment on men being mentally ill and disgusting for that? That was
Yeah, but I
insulting.
mean, so what? That's every feminist who ever's on the show. I just take it with a grain of salt at this point.
I'm willing to do an apology. I'll do an apology.
Yeah, but you can be respectful, period.
that was, yeah, it's just
I don't know
a.
that you're willing to do that, Brian. Like,
Weren't you in the military? Like, I'm just confused. Like, isn't this sort of banter? Like, are you really that?
you just retarded because
You fucked up our prop. You fucked up the prop.
Brian, it's not that big of a deal.
We're arguing
Like, you're the
different
lowest
ideas. That's
Okay,
anyone wanna
so
hurry up?
cool.
Can I DoorDash it?
Bro, you're
yeah.
killing it in the tone policing department. So you can sit back down or you can leave. I mean,
Yeah, honestly, sit back down. We can get back to having a good combo. It was
Andrew,
getting
she
good.
left.
It was getting good.
She
Okay.
said bye.
They're definitely.
She already gone?
She's upset. She's gone.
I guess, Morgan, we're going to have you sit in that chair, I guess. Welcome to the panel, Morgan.
I almost
Come on, which one?
Just before we wrap this,
Yeah, all right. Well,
can I say something
Yeah, go ahead.
regarding that? Just like an opposite opinion, at
Sure.
least.
Go
I mean,
ahead.
I was 21, and one of my most meaningful relationships was with a 42-year-old man, and he was not predatory. He didn't make me do anything I didn't want to do. I felt like I grew with that person more than anyone closer to my age, and I've even dated people younger than me. I've like kind of understood both sides of that aspect, and it really doesn't mean like the age aspect is like the deciding factor of how like, I don't know, it's not gross unless it's, I mean, we all know what like that level gets to.
Gross people are gross people regardless of age.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also kind
It's
of
all about
depends
maturity.
on the state of the woman, whether, when she's 20 and 21, the lifestyle she's lived.
Are they
how
meant?
she
Yeah.
Well, and that's
grew
the
up.
thing too is you
Yeah.
get
You
a
don't
lot
know.
of people saying that it's gross for a man to want to be or older man to be attracted to a younger woman, but yet there's very rarely I feel like any talk about women that seek out
Younger-
older
If,
men.
if you wouldn't mind on the
Younger.
mic, can you put your mouth in front of the mic itself?
bit
Because
closer.
otherwise the audio
Is this
sounds kind of
better?
funky on this end.
Can you hear me better? Yeah. I was saying that I feel like I'm not saying it's never talked about, but I feel like it's definitely not as common where you hear this talk a lot of basically it's icky and it's gross for older men to be attracted or seek out younger women, but yet it's not as talked about where you get younger women seeking out older men for their resources, and because let's be honest, that's usually why they're seeking out older men, because they're more established, they're more.
That's like a majority.
Somebody says her mic
I'm
is.
not saying there's anything
They're saying her
wrong.
mic is not on.
Mine or hers?
Mine?
Yeah, there's something seriously wrong with the audio there.
With mine?
With just your mic specifically.
Did she pull that down?
So what it sounds like, Brian, is it sounds like she's kind of underwater a little bit.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that sounds way better.
Better?
It's her hands.
It might have been me. It might have been me
pulling it.
No,
holding it.
now it's back. Now it's back. It's just that one mic.
I don't know. Do you want me to use mine for a second?
Bro.
What do you want me to do?
I still think we need to talk about the retard thing. I think that
Maybe you can switch seats with
And then
with that way you got her mic. I don't know.
I don't think switching wouldn't. That doesn't make sense.
No. If she switched with Helmet Girl, then because Helmet Girl, you know what I mean. Then she has the mic. That's all I'm saying.
Can you hear me now, Andrew?
Well, I gave her mine. She has a name, Andrew. Yeah. I gave her mine.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you guys wearing name badges?
No.
Like, am I?
Well, if you
How
were
many
here on time, you
names should I
would've known our
remember?
names.
Okay, so here's what I'll do from now on. It'll be Tiffany 1, Tiffany 2, Tiffany 3, Tiffany 4, Tiffany 5. How about we just do it? Would that make you feel better?
I want to be Brittany.
What do you want me to do? I'm supposed to remember everybody's name?
donated $200. I was drinking milk from a fresh bowl of cereal that I happened to spill on my shirt. I called myself a retardant and then proceeded to walk out on myself because I was so offended. Now that is meta.
That is pretty meta.
Good for him.
Bro.
Quick little thing though, is the same thing like applied to like older women that go for younger men? That seems pretty like normalized out.
And also calling men mentally ill and then getting called retardeds, but you just called all men mentally
Whoa, that's a really good point.
So
she
you
called all men retarded.
mentally ill.
She called.
But you got called retarded.
She called all men retarded. But I call her retarded. She's offended. That's fucking good catch. Good catch. Yeah, what's up? High five for that. Boom.
She literally said it like 20 minutes ago. Okay, so every man's mentally retarded, but she's not. And
Honestly,
that is very
gets the ick. It's
unrespectful.
okay.
Haley, I got some questions for you. Getting into some of your notes.
Yes.
In your pre-show notes to us, you described yourself as a socialist.
Yes.
With an interest in
Traditional values.
communism. You okay, Nick?
And communism.
Nick, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. You said, okay. Sorry, go ahead. You said interest in communism?
Communism, but also like some traditional values.
Communism.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Or
You're
no,
not a
well, no.
communist.
Well, you said, okay, so.
Well, I don't, that's why I say socialist, because I'm still like full doing my deep dive into communism. But I think if communism worked how it was actually supposed to work and not how like we've had the Red Scare and how people in history have painted out communism to be, then yeah, I think communism would be a great concept if we could do it properly.
A stateless society.
To a degree, it's just
Well, that's
everyone
common.
helping
That-
everyone having homes, everybody being able to like have some kind of food, water, shelter, clothes. Like, I feel like the recklessness that you've been kind of referring to is part of it is like people like stealing not because they want to steal and because they want to be reckless, but they want to resell the stolen merch so that they could buy their baby diapers or afford formula. And so I agree to a degree some of the reckless behavior is going up, but I think also part of that is there's people that do want monogamous, the nuclear family thing, but we can't afford it in this economy the way like inflation's going. It's like there was an article that was like, millennials don't want this, they want to downsize, they want this. We would like marriage, we would like, not everyone, but the government and society hasn't set us up like that. So I mean, if you're into this whole procreation thing and like that's like very important to you, wouldn't communism like make sense because everyone would have everything they need and therefore we could focus on procreation?
So the problem with this is you're making a materialist argument.
Okay.
So let me just walk you through it. What you're saying is, right now we have the best standard of living that we've ever had in history. There's more materialism available to anybody than there ever has been. We have cell phones and we have big screen TVs and we have these great cameras and we have all this electricity and these light bulbs and all the clothes and all the new cars and all the this and all the that. If we just added more materialism, wouldn't people have children?
I think she's
That's
saying
not-
if we evened it out.
I'm not even thinking about that. I'm thinking just like the minimum wage.
Yeah,
in
but right,
general.
but all these people have all of these things already intact. They already have the houses, they already have the money, they already have the everything. They're still not having the
I don't think
children.
a lot of them do.
They do, and you want to know who has the children? The people who don't have that. The poor people. The people who have no money. People who have no housing. The people who live poor. Those are the ones that have the most amount of children. Poor people overwhelmingly have more children than all the rest of the segments of society.
A lot of that has to do with lack of resources, though, which could be government funding.
So then it can't be a material answer. So it can't be a material answer to my question of when you say, if you want people to reproduce, shouldn't you give them more material means? Like, well, every time I look at the people who have the least amount of material means,
no.
they reproduce the most.
The not even material means. Well, if they're that I don't understand how they have the most material means, but they're also the poorest. Because I'm not talking about material means. I'm just talking about
No, the
basic
least. I said
food
the
and, like,
least.
the
So they have the
okay.
least amount of material means, and they still reproduce the most, even though they have the least amount of materialism. So that's not going to help me with my goal.
Okay.
So what you want, though, is when you say I want a fair allocation of resource, I want people to have, I don't even know what you want them to have, because every communist is different. So let's just say, like, I'm going to be maximum charitable as I can possibly be to you. Everyone gets a house, okay? Like, I don't know, a starter home. I'm guessing you don't want everybody to have a mansion, right?
No, everyone
Okay.
basic house. Everyone has
Yeah.
enough house for all their
And they
kids.
have basic things being taken care of for them, right?
Clothes,
Mm-hmm.
water, food, electricity.
Now, the fundamentals to this, the big problem you have with this worldview, is when even though you think of rights in a different way than I do, using your kind of reasoning for what a right is, do you ever have a right to anybody else's service?
No.
Well, then communism can't work, and free healthcare can't
know,
work,
there's
and
a
none of those
village-
things can work because you're saying you don't have a right to the services of others.
I could understand that, and recently, though, I was reading about this village in Italy, and it's a communist village, and around roughly only 30% of them choose to work, and the other 70% just live their lives. So they kind of just live together, whatever, but not everyone works and serves, but doesn't mean that their life is less valuable.
Yeah, but the question becomes this. Let's say in some small scales, different communes can work because they always have been able to, right? You can have a bunch of like-minded people start a commune and all of them work towards a common good, no money, no nothing. Nobody's saying that can't work in a small scale because everybody's agreeing. Mm-hmm. But on a large scale, when you have people who don't agree, they're like, wait, I don't want to be your doctor.
Doc Venabilis donated $200. You communist idiot. Everything you said is exactly what people lack in communist countries. If you really want to be a red, you are free to go live like the Amish right now.
Fuck.
Like a redneck?
Yeah, well, he's saying a red, like a communist red.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, what are your thoughts on capitalism? You like it?
Well, you mind if I
dislike it?
just finish
It's
this
hard.
last
So sorry,
exchange?
go ahead.
Almost done.
Yeah,
almost
no,
done.
go ahead, go ahead.
We're very close to being finished with this. So the thing is that if you can't compel other people to give you service, if you have the best heart surgeons and you have the best at breast augmentation, whatever it is, right? They say, I'm not doing that shit for you. I'm not going to go open up that guy's heart. I'm not going to fix it. I'm not doing it, right? You don't feel like you can compel him to do it, right? So then he's going to be able to name his price and your communism doesn't work. That's the big hole. The big hole is that the reason you always see communist countries, which are completely and totally authoritarian, run at the literal barrel of a gun, is because they have to compel people to give their service. And if you're not willing to do that, you can't have communism.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that's not what I think true communism is. And I'm not saying communism would work in America. I definitely don't think, I mean, maybe one day that would take a lot of whatever, but I don't think we're going to ever get there, especially in our generation. But I do think that if it happened, it would be like a utopia, which is hard to imagine everybody somehow having their part or just making the flow of everything work so everyone can live and choose whether they want to work or not work. But
Wait, so in a communist utopia, what would be the
if you want to work, you can work. If you don't, you don't
what
have
about
to.
because there's certainly jobs that are currently under capitalism that are undesirable, and I suspect those same jobs would also exist under communism. There's some jobs that suck, right? That are dangerous.
Wants to go do the sewer work, in other words, in your communist utopia.
I mean, people get up and do it.
They do it now because they get paid a lot of money. They have a higher incentive than other people who do other industries because they're doing a horrible job and get paid a lot for it.
Under communism, you can either be would there be movie stars under communism?
I don't know. I haven't thought that far. What do you
But
mean by
let's say
that?
I want to be a movie star under
Okay.
communism. But there's also a job that requires men to go into the sewers or be line workers, go into
I would
below
say
freezing
go be
storms.
a movie star.
But wouldn't everybody want to be a movie star versus having an undesirable job?
Even for a hypothetical situation like this, I feel like that's more exaggerated because at some point people
Grid
want.
One
There wouldn't all
Motorsports
just be
donated
movie stars.
$200. You would not last a week in the bread lines. No communism for you. Socialism has failed or is failing in every society. The claim it just has not been done right is horse hockey.
fair.
I have a point
Go ahead.
about, and I guess I can ask your opinion on this, but what if you, in the communist utopia that you're speaking about, what if you had to be the line worker? I think that's where it kind of falls apart, right? Because nobody would choose to do that.
I'm personally
So-
a
but it's
sport,
required.
So if it's
sport.
if it's kind of one of those
But do you
dies for 1,000,
right.
then I personally am probably one of those people that would be
But do you
like,
see
yeah,
what
I
I'm
can
saying?
do it.
That's like Mao.
But that's
right?
a very rare
so
thing.
Mao goes and he
but
says,
I'm saying there's more people that's got to exist like
he
me.
says
that
this
would
country
eventually...
really needs trenches dug in a big way. It needs some infrastructure work. We have too many of those academics. We don't need them anymore. So all those people who wanted to be academics and were academics, they were the really smart people. He made them dig ditches because that's what they needed. That's what they needed in their society that's what he said anyway.
Okay.
This is what we need. So you academics, you dumb eggheads, all you people who come up with all these smart ideas, dig ditches.
Yeah, well, dig some holes.
Right. So,
Like-
but the thing is,
I
it's
think
like,
I think it's a
Yeah.
little easier to speak in a hypothetical situation though.
But we're also
Like I know I get you're a good sport, but like would you actually?
we also live under capitalism, so for us to try to really like rationalize doing these things under communism is crazy because we live with the freedom to like choose.
Right, but that's like speaking
there's
about
other
any-
places that have been like remotely like untouched by society where like they don't clock into jobs and they just the women have babies, they like someone's a cook, someone's a nurse, someone's a midwife. Like there's societies where that's like no one's forcing this person to like be the nurse or be the medicine man or whatever, but
People
we're
just
speaking from
enjoy
like a
helping
place
other
where
people.
we can go out and like we know
What-
there's people who make like $30,000 a month or whatever. We're speaking from like a very
Wait,
of course we wouldn't be able
I have
to
a
like
question
rationalize communism
for you. Under communism, would someone who requires significant educational achievement, academic achievement, for example, somebody who wants to be a brain surgeon, would they somehow live better under communism than the person that doesn't want to do anything? Or would it would be totally equal? Because then what is the incentive to like, or let's say a physically laborious job, which is damaging to your body, what would be the incentive if you had the option to not work
Right, that's what I'm
to
saying.
go spend this time?
Some people just like helping other people.
Is that
And I
enough
know that's like the
motivation?
most cliche. Yeah, it's hard because in this society, like, people want something out of it. I asked my dad, "Will you go to therapy?" He goes, "What's in it for me?" Like, you know, that like society is, especially in America, like, well, what am I gonna get out of it? But I truly believe with my corny little heart that there's people out there that just want to be like, I'll help my neighbor, or you
Yeah,
know,
but the
I'll
thing
do
is-
the right thing.
Don't they do that now then?
Right, we
What
still have a
about it?
choice.
Yeah, but do they do that now? Because if they do that now, then what do you need communism for anyway? If that's just a natural inclination of everybody to do what's nice and neat to everybody.
If more people could afford to do the right thing, I think more people would. But sometimes doing the right thing isn't always affordable.
Who can't afford to do the right thing?
Like not everyone can afford to like give the homeless man change, or not everyone can like give someone a sweatshirt off their back.
but if you can't afford to give a homeless man change, and so you don't, you haven't done the wrong thing. So the thing is when you're talking about the right thing,
Yeah.
you're saying, I just believe in my heart that basically everybody really wants to do the right thing.
Yes.
Then in capitalism, is everybody basically doing the right
Grid
thing?
One Motorsports donated $200. Under communism, no free college, no free speech, no free anything. No idea why people think communism is somehow going to be this existence where they do nothing they do not want to. Grow the F up.
Yeah, I'm just saying the people's nature shouldn't change between communism and capitalism. What would be the change in the nature?
Survival, yeah.
changes.
Literally, like I've been homeless before, and when I've
But
been
most people
homeless,
are
my
never homeless.
instinct that's increasing day by day,
No,
and there's
it
people that don't even have $500 in their bank account for a rainy day.
Decreasing.
Wait, I've got a question. You guys all have, what's going on?
Oh, it's just hard for me to sit for such a long time. I'm backwards. Can I be in the back
Nickelodeon
moving?
donated $200.
Can I move in the back?
One day in my communist utopia, Jennifer Lawrence
stretch
will
a
be
little
my
bit, or-
wife, and you women would stop saying such absurd things. And Myra would grab Brixton by the hair and throw him against the wall.
Oh.
One day.
Okay, all right. Nickelodeon, thank you very much. There's another one that's about to come in, so I'm just waiting for it. It's just one after the other. Thank you, Nickelodeon. Appreciate it, man. Thank you, Grid One. Thank you, Modest Hakama. That's about to. Oh, Flame Life. Thanks for the gifted 5 memberships. Hold on, it's about to trigger. One sec, guys. Yo, Flame Life. Thank you, dude.
Modest Hikima donated $200. Do you really think you would thrive under panel when on a third date and I ask what is your view on the conflict in the Middle East? What is your answer? If Brixton redirects he loves Hamas.
Just trying to.
I mean, I don't think anyone would survive under current communism in other countries and how we've painted out communism to be. And conflict in the Middle East is different to everybody, you know. I think there's a way that there's weirdly a neutral side. I have friends that are very free Palestine, and I have friends that will like take a bullet for Israel, and I
Okay.
can somehow land in the middle. So
Question for you. So, in communism, and look, this is not a topic I'm particularly well versed in, but in communism, let's say nobody wanted to do a certain job, would there be an authority that would force people to do a certain job? Like, let's say there was a necessary job that just had to be done.
I think by nature, people would eventually see how bad the problem's getting and then bond together to fix it if it really got that bad.
But what if nobody wanted to become a brain surgeon or something?
I mean, in this
Saint
situation, then we're
_Easy
fucked.
donated $200.
Oh, thank you, Saint Reason.
Kiki, as much as I try to fight it, I'm no match for you. You've won my heart, now and forever.
Okay. Thank you, Saint Reezy. Appreciate it. We have Grid 1 coming in here. Question related to... Hold on. It's Grid 1's about to come. Nick, really... Guys, go to twitch.tv/whatever. Oh, wait, too late.
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $200. Last on the subject, communism sucks the life out of everything it touches. If you cannot handle money or make money, is your fault. The opportunity is there for all. I grew up dirt poor, now I am not.
Now he's not. Grid 1. There you go. And same for Andrew. Question for you guys. Under communism, and I don't know, maybe some of you don't want communism, I don't know. All of you do OnlyFans, correct? Under communism, would you continue would you do OnlyFans under communism?
Would you be able to?
Sword Liz. Would you want to? I don't know. I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, I
still do. You don't make money from it, right? Would you? I don't think you'd make money.
Well, I'm not.
So
I'm
all
not
the
a communist,
OnlyFans would
so.
just be. Would it just be free? There's like no charge for the OnlyFans.
I mean, yeah, I guess if that's something I really like enjoyed doing to that extent.
Thank you for
that. Right now just see OnlyFans as like a job and not so much like, oh, this fun thing.
Okay.
How much porn do you think would be reduced?
What do you mean?
It would be.
Like,
I don't do porn on
be like
OnlyFans.
1% left of it or less. Like,
not everyone does porn on OnlyFans though.
No, I'm not even talking about just.
Wait, under communism, is it like only jobs that have some sort of?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not
doing OnlyFans. Probably would that really exist under communism? Would it really?
I mean, if you just really love,
would makeup would there be no makeup? Because there's not
probably
really
be makeup. There is makeup
for
yeah, but who wants to make it? Like, who wants to go to the chemical plant to make women's makeup?
They don't have to make it. I mean, you could do it with berries or like natural
That's
dyes.
what they used to do.
Oh shit!
Like, what do you think Native Americans used to do? What? Like, it's not just for like, men's.
Yeah,
gays.
but who's gonna get all the berries for you to put it all over your face?
Go outside.
Why don't I go fucking do it?
Let's go.
Well, I mean, if you live in the middle, like, let's
forest.
pretend you live in the middle of the city. Like, where are you gonna get your fucking berries for your makeup? You know what I mean?
You probably.
Do you think that a minute ago you said that it's the way that communism is happening?
Oh my god! Thank you, Modest. Thank you. Go
The way
ahead.
that communism is happening in other countries.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you tend to believe that that would be the way it would continue on? Like, why would it be different in your communist utopia?
Well, I think there's just a lot of things backed up politically in all those different countries that have communism.
Right, but why would they be different in yours? And how?
Because I think communism isn't just about putting the power in one. Like, when I see other communist countries, even though it's supposed to be for the people, you usually see one kind of dictator or something.
But why? Why is it like that?
Politics, eugenics, racism.
I'm just asking because
it's like that because the reason you always have to have a strong man, you have to have force in those nations, is because they have to compel services of people who would not ordinarily give them unless they were paid. That's why. That's why you always have a strong arm authoritarianism inside of communism to the point of ridiculousness, is because how do you get medical services from people who don't want to give them to you unless you pay them? Like, how do you do that without compelling them to do it?
My friends that are nurses don't want to be
the thing that
digging
makes it
people up
nice to be a nurse is that you get paid so much money.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That's the thing that people like about it.
Here, let's.
There are no nurses in your communism.
Like, who wants to go wipe
Nobody
an
loves
old
that.
man's butt?
What about janitors?
Butt?
What about janitors?
No one likes to wipe old people's butt, but if it's something like you're talking about an obligation or a duty, then you do it. You just man the fuck up and you do it.
Right, an obligation or duty, but an obligation or duty is not a thing that you guys, when I asked everybody at this table, basically.
I feel like she only answered that question.
The same question. Right. For obligation and duties, I think that your kind of threshold there is that you don't really think that there's that much in the way of obligation or duty in comparison to kind of the I can't even, I don't even know if I can say it, so I'm just not going to, but whatever I would deem like degenerate behavior, right? You don't have any duty. Do you have any duty to not do any form of degenerate behavior? That would be the question.
So reasons not to do degenerate shit?
Yeah, and what degenerate means in this is without morals. It means without morals.
Loads.
Yeah, loads of stuff that you should move against.
I mean, reasons why I have those duties, or like, I mean,
okay.
I have godchildren. I don't have much family. Like,
now, if somebody doesn't want to do one of those duties, this is the question: would you make them?
I don't think you can really like make it. You can be disappointed. Then
inside of your paradigm, if we apply the same thing and say, okay, you think people have duties to do this, and then they don't, well, nothing gets done.
That's why we call it. That's why I'm calling it a utopia. Because do I think that will actually exist? No. If it was supposed to work the way what the framework is, and not the leaderships and the politics,
where everybody had to do the horrible job except you. Right? Everybody but you.
All right.
No. I feel like I'm the one to do the most horrible job.
Well, if we did have communism, would you take the job of working in the sewers?
If I had to.
If you had
to.
If I felt like the people in my village or town or wherever weren't like standing the fuck up.
$200.
El Richie y sus opiniones idiotas, yeah. Según los narcouriburros, el sistema de salud en Colombia era maravilloso hasta que en 2022 subió Petro y lo acabó. Según los narcouriburros, Petro empezó a liquear EPS a lo que marca y puso el sistema de salud colombiano en crisis. Pero una vez más, una simple investigación por internet deja a todos estos estúpidos narcouriburros como lo que son, unos estúpidos. Comenzando por la candidata de los narcomarimberos del Cauca, ¿no? Doña Paloca Violencia, como siempre diciendo mentiras y estupideces. Dizque Petro, el gran destructor de las EPS con 4 robaderos de esos liquidados, pero se les olvida que el narcouribismo con el narcomarrano Duque acabó 10. También se les olvida que el narcouribismo con el Taur Santos, que dijo Uribe, acabó con 18. También se les olvida que el narcouribismo con el motosierra 6402 acabó con 5. Y también se les olvida que el presunto pedófilo registrado en el avión de Epstein acabó con 9. Y nunca dijeron nada, nunca. Pero ahora sí con Petro es el hecatombe. Ah, no, espérese un momento, sí decían algo, mire lo que decían por allá en 2010.
Nosotros recibimos un sistema totalmente quebrado. Está el tema de las EPS, ese ha sido un tema muy controvertido, todos coincidimos en que el funcionamiento de las EPS ha sido catastrófico, esas EPS que se aprobaron con la ley 100 no han funcionado.
Pero espérese que aún hay más.
Nosotros hemos venido estudiando la reforma a la salud. El primer punto es el pago a los hospitales. El pago a los hospitales debe ser un giro directo sobre las EPS, que se cierren las malas, las que no cumplen.
Pero espérese, aún hay más. Mire lo que decían por allá en 2017.
Mire, Catalina, los saludamos desde el barrio San Francisco, acá en Ciudad Bolívar, y esta es la situación de esta sede de los usuarios de Capital Salud. Lo que ustedes están viendo es una fila de aproximadamente 200 personas esperando atención en salud, y así pues es todos los días, lamentablemente. Quiero contarles, siempre Juan Diego dice que Eduard es el hombre que más trasnocha en este país. No, señor, Acá hay mucha gente que trasnocha en este lugar y una de ellas, que ya es la tercera vez que trasnocha por buscar atención médica, es esta abuelita de 77 años, doña Rosario Álvarez. Doña Rosario, ¿desde qué hora llegó para ser la primera en la fila?
Desde la 1 de la mañana.
¿Y qué es lo que usted está buscando? ¿Qué es lo que pasa?
Las autorizaciones que necesito para la medicina y para las gafas.
Y esta es la tercera vez que usted llega.
Y ayer alcancé a entrar allá y por no tener la ficha no me atendió la magistrada que me estaba atendiendo allá.
Pero espere, mire lo que pasaba por allá en 2016. Pero espere, mire lo que decían durante la pandemia.
Visitamos dos zonas de la ciudad, la primera en la avenida NQS con calle 68. Las protagonistas, las filas y aglomeraciones para poder reclamar medicamentos.
¿Cómo? La EPS dice que los envía a la casa, pero no los envía, eso no. Toca venir uno aquí.
Duré aquí 20 minutos sin moverme, tengo que reclamar un calcio que me mandaron a Cafán y de Cafán acá. Y es para mi madre que tiene 82 años.
Pacientes con diabetes e hipertensión tuvieron que salir de sus casas en Bosa.
Pero espérese que aún hay más.
Tenemos un sistema de aseguramiento donde muchas EPS se están abusando. ¿Y abusan por qué? Porque se les paga por el número de afiliados a través de una figura que se llama la unidad de pago por capitación. Puntuales. Y quiero decirle esto, al médico residente en Colombia hay que pagarle. Somos de los pocos países donde estamos por fuera de ese rango. Necesitamos precios de referencia, telemedicina, política de trasplantes, mejorar la cobertura y la densificación hospitalaria en las regiones del país. Esa es la base de la reforma que yo quiero para que el sistema de salud tenga cobertura, calidad, sostenibilidad financiera y óigame la última. A las EPS les voy a poner no solamente a la supersalud, sino en la otra orejita, a la superfinanciera, para que garantice que tengan las reservas técnicas para cumplir sus obligaciones.
Y miren lo que dice este informe.
Faltando 18 días para terminar el gobierno Duque, 2 contratos de suministro de medicamentos a la policía y el ejército se adjudicaron a 2 empresas, pero una de ellas cedió su función a Ético Serrano Gómez, de propiedad del Clan Char.
Ha transado a la fecha más de 1.7 billones de pesos, concentrando el mercado de medicamentos en estos 2 proveedores.
Según Colombia Compra Eficiente, hubo una maniobra al estilo del yo con yo para que el suministro de medicamentos quedara durante 3 años en manos de una empresa de Clan Char.
Cuando hay un acuerdo marco, todas las entidades estatales sometidas a la ley 80 quedan obligadas a comprar al acuerdo marco. Y como había solo 2 proveedores, pues estos 2 proveedores tenían acaparado el mercado.
Las reglas de juego disponían que si un proveedor se declaraba incapaz de proveer un medicamento, la provisión sería endosada al otro, y así llegó a Ético Serrano Gómez.
Presentaba cotización, pero que a su vez no podía satisfacer la necesidad de la entidad que requería el servicio de dispensación de medicamentos. Inclusive llegaron a manifestar que cuando ellos no tenían la capacidad le pedían a Ético Serrano que los cubra.
¿Cómo la ven? Escasos días antes de que se acabara el nefasto gobierno del narcomarrano Duque, este le entregó a los zampones corronchos mamaburras Char un contrato de miles de millones de pesos para que controlaran la entrega de medicamentos de las fuerzas militares. Hágame el berraco favor, pero según estos imbéciles la culpa del desabastecimiento es del gobierno actual. Ahora miren esto.
Televidentes, poco ruido ha generado esta semana una información muy delicada. La Contraloría General de la República confirmó lo que hace 3 meses había dicho esa entidad, entonces acusada de no tener pruebas. Oigan bien, 11 billones de pesos para atender la salud de los colombianos se extraviaron en manos de particulares durante el 2020 en plena pandemia, durante el gobierno del entonces presidente Iván Duque.
¿Cómo la ven? La Contraloría hace unas cuantas semanas descubrió que durante la pandemia el narcomarranito y sus amiguitos de la CPS se robaron 11 billones de pesos. ¡11 billones de pesos! Y miren esto.
Aseguró el Contralor General Carlos Fernán Rodríguez que de esos 11 billones,
6 se usaron por parte de algunas EPS para pagar deudas viejas que tenían incluso desde 2003.
Imagínese, 6 billones de pesos para pagar deudas viejas desde el 2003. Y tiene lógica, ¿no? Teniendo en cuenta que cuando intervienen esas cochinadas de EPS, encuentran que tenían doble contabilidad. Es decir, se la pasaban diciendo mentiras sobre su realidad financiera para robarse la plata. Pero sigamos.
Otros 5 billones, dijo el Contralor, ni siquiera tienen soportes que demuestren que realmente se gastaron. O si los tienen, se pagaron gastos particulares para lo que no están destinados los recursos de la salud.
Por ejemplo, de créditos y algo muy delicado. Se pagaron los salarios de los 5 miembros de la entonces junta directiva que van a ver en pantalla, Enzo.
Así es, Víctor. Quienes ustedes ven en pantalla son las 5 personas que integraban la junta directiva de la nueva EPS en 2020 durante el gobierno de Iván Duque. Ellos no solo recibieron grandes salarios de los billonarios recursos de la salud perdidos, sino que también aprobaron los estados financieros de la nueva EPS ese año, en donde se reflejan los suntuosos gastos y cómo se desvió el dinero.
¿Cómo la ven? 5 billones de pesos mecateados en cositas porque no tienen soporte, ni una factura, ni un recibo, ni una nada. Pero según estos imbéciles, el gobierno actual es el que tiene el sistema en crisis. Sigamos.
Veamos uno a uno en detalle esos nombres. José Fernando Cardona era el presidente de la nueva EPS, un poderoso médico de la Universidad de Caldas, quien hasta ese gobierno estuvo al frente de la nueva EPS desde su creación en noviembre de 2009.
Víctor, el otro es Fernando Jiménez, ex viceministro de Hacienda y muy poderoso funcionario público durante sus 20 años en la dirección del presupuesto nacional, precisamente en ese Ministerio de Hacienda.
Hablemos ahora de Mauricio Olivera González, es economista y había sido el presidente de Colpensiones durante el primer gobierno de Juan Manuel Santos.
Noemí Sanín Posada, ex viceministra de Relaciones Exteriores de Colombia y ex candidata presidencial por el Partido Conservador, es la otra miembro de esta junta directiva.
Ricardo Rueda Sáenz, médico cirujano y profesor de medicina de la Universidad de los Andes.
Y finalmente está Enrique Vargas Lleras, el hermano del ex vicepresidente Germán Vargas Lleras, quien es un poderoso abogado dentro del sistema de salud de Colombia, opositor acérrimo de la reforma a la salud y actualmente enfrentado en los estrados judiciales con el presidente de la República, Gustavo Petro.
Imagínense esta joyita, los megasueldos de estas bellezas, incluyendo al lampón hermanito del pata de pollo Vargas Lleras y a lampona Noemí Sanín, pero la joya de la corona es este criminal. Les presento esta porquería criminal José Fernando Cardona. Pónganle cuidado, por allá en 2024 hablaban de este ampón de 7 suelas como el gran héroe de la nueva EPS generando miles de millones en rentabilidad, aunque esto es una mamada teniendo en cuenta que está prohibido generar rentabilidad con el dinero y los servicios de salud de los colombianos. No obstante, meses después este ampón pasó de ser el gran héroe de ese robadero llamado nueva EPS a estar imputado por varios crímenes, entre ellos peculado por apropiación, fraude procesal y falsedad en documento privado. ¿Cómo la ven con esta pecueca? Pero espere porque ahí no acaba el cuento. Esta porquería salió de los mismísimos anales del narcoparacouribismo. ¿Y por qué? Se preguntarán ustedes. Pues es muy sencillo. Resulta que por allá en 2009, cuando ya se había cocinado la Ley 100 y las nefastas EPS, el Paraco Motosierra 6402 agarró el área administrativa del corrupto Seguro Social, un manojo de cajas de compensación, la compañía de seguros estatal Seguros Positiva y creó el bodrio llamado Nueva EPS. Para cerrar el mega negocio con broche de oro, puso de presidente a ese ampón José Fernando Cardona y le asignó los pacientes de alto costo y los pacientes de tercera edad, que son los que más generan dinero. ¿Cómo la ven? Tremendo negocito el que armó el imputado Uribe con la salud en Colombia, ¿no? Porque imagínese que ahora no aparecen 14 millones de facturas que suman más de 700 mil millones de pesos, pero según estos idiotas, la culpa de la crisis es del gobierno actual.
Y mientras tanto, la nueva PS sigue sin responder, poniendo todas las trabas posibles. La salud en Colombia está en cuidados intensivos, con un Congreso que no actúa, un gobierno que ya maneja más de la mitad de las EPS pero evade su responsabilidad, y unos entes de control que protegen a todos, menos a los pacientes.
Yo le diría
diría que deberían intervenir la nueva EPS. La cosa es que esa nueva EPS es del gobierno y además de eso ya está intervenida. ¿De quién es la culpa a todas estas de esta crisis del sistema de salud que hoy estamos viviendo? Sí, de ese gobierno que usted ayudó a elegir.
¿Cómo vieron a este idiota cara de imbécil? Ahora salen estos uriburros desinformadores diciendo que la culpa de la crisis de esa ratonera nueva EPS es del gobierno actual. Ese ampón Cardona robando y desapareciendo facturas desde el 2009 cuando el motosierra lo puso en la presidencia hasta el 2024, pero según este imbécil desinformador, el culpable de todo es el gobierno actual. Y es que no es el único bobalicón desinformador, miren a este otro.
Luego de varios intentos, el gobierno nacional y Gustavo Petro lograron quedarse con el poder de la nueva EPS. Luego de intentarlo con Carolina Corcho, por fin el presidente logró que Aldo Cadena, uno de sus aliados políticos más importantes, pero sobre todo uno de los personajes más peligrosos del petrismo, se quedara en la presidencia de esta EPS.
Luego de varios intentos, Petro logró quedarse con el poder sobre la nueva EPS, dice este carebobo. Al momento de la intervención del gobierno en la nueva EPS apareció que las pérdidas de esa vaina ascienden a 5 billones de pesos. 5 billones de pesos le encontraron refundidos a esos asquerosos zampones.
En un debate de control político, la Comisión Séptima del Senado citó al ministro de Salud e interventores de EPS. El centro de la discusión es la supuesta desfinanciación de la unidad de pago por capitación, donde criticaron la ejecución de los recursos del sistema de salud. Sin embargo, el agente encargado para la recuperación financiera de la EPS más grande del país, con alrededor de 11 millones de afiliados, concluyó que después de 7 meses los registros contables no corresponden a la realidad.
Una contabilidad totalmente falseada. Esto no fue que ese fin de semana el ente interventor decidió mecatearse 5 billones de pesos.
Entre los hallazgos se ha podido evidenciar pérdidas billonarias que aseguran no estaban reflejadas en la contabilidad de la nueva EPS, así como ganancias no registradas durante la pandemia.
En 2019 había tenido una utilidad supuesta de 12.000 millones de pesos. 2019 tenía una pérdida real en servicios de salud de 351.000 millones de pesos. 2020 decía la contabilidad 27.000 millones, utilidad. Realmente 2020, en época de la pandemia, cuando la plata no alcanzaba, fueron utilidad de 247.000 millones de pesos.
Otra de las fallas por las que fue intervenida la EPS fue la falta de reservas técnicas. Estas son las que aseguran la prestación del servicio para 11 millones de afiliados. De ellas se contaba con 6.2 billones de pesos.
Y hubo que incrementarla en 5 billones para responder por los hallazgos iniciales. Los 5.7 billones de pesos representados en facturas no contabilizadas.
Rincón añadió que en este caso se constituyeron las reservas, pero se quedaron en vilo las deudas por el mismo monto con el que se debían haber pagado, por lo que los movimientos contables de esta EPS son inciertos.
La propia Procuraduría encontró que los zampones que tenía el Paraco Motosierras a la cabeza de esa entidad tenían refundidos 5 billones de pesos, pero este pedazo de imbécil carebobo desinformador dice que la culpa es de Petro. Según este idiota, había que dejar que el amiguito de Uribe siguiera robando a sus anchas en la tal nueva EPS. Es que de verdad el cinismo es directamente proporcional a la cara de bobo. Y miren esta perla.
Amiguito, no estamos haciendo política, quita la chaqueta, mi hermano, quita la chaqueta aquí, no estamos haciendo política. No se aproveche del gremio, no aproveche de la gente, mi hermano. Yo también soy candidato al consejo.
Si reconocen al jeta de chancleta del video desinformador de la reforma laboral, ese que ya desmentimos en TikTok y que se volvió un meme a nivel nacional porque ya nadie lo baja de idiota desinformador, si se dan cuenta, esos mediocres andan todos junticos y son una pandilla digital de desinformadores amangualados para andar diciendo mentiras a diestra y siniestra. Y aquí otro de esos estúpidos del Centro Paraconarco Democrático.
Es escandaloso que la nueva EPS, que es la EPS más grande del país y que está intervenida y controlada por el gobierno de Gustavo Petro desde hace varios meses, no haya reportado información financiera desde marzo del año 2024 a la Superintendencia de Salud. Adicionalmente llama la atención que el nuevo superintendente, Giovanni Rubiano, que se posesionó el 6 de noviembre del año pasado, se haya quedado prácticamente 3 meses cruzado de brazos ante esa escandalosa omisión de información y solo haya decidido actuar después de recibir un derecho de petición de parte mía. ¿Qué es lo que están ocultando? ¿Qué es lo que no quieren que el país sepa?
Pues cómo iban a reportar plata si el amiguito que puso Uribe en la presidencia llevaba 15 años escondiendo facturas y robando, y ahora sí les alarma, ahora sí les entró el afán y la preocupación. Pues le cuento, carebobo desinformador, conservador Andrés Forero que hay buenas noticias. El informe ya apareció y la culpa es de los zampones de su partido. Ahora a 70 hijueputas corruptos como la narcosenadora de los marimberos del Cauca, Paloca Violencia, les dio por decir que bajo el gobierno de Petro, las EPS aumentaron su deuda. ¿Qué nivel de retraso mental se necesita para no poder entender que lo que sucedió es que las intervenciones a las EPS corruptas esas destaparon que estaban falsificando sus estados financieros? Las intervenciones del gobierno revelaron que en años anteriores las EPS tenían muchas más pérdidas y deudas que las que estaban reportando en sus estados financieros. Por eso es que ahora que les levantaron las naguas, resulta que tienen unos huecos financieros inmensos y nadie sabe dónde está la plata. Por eso es que ahora que los auditaron aparecen unas pérdidas patrimoniales absurdas. Esta payasa estúpida pretende decir que Petro aumentó las deudas de 411.000 millones a 4.4 billones, pero lo que realmente sucedió es que las auditorías descubrieron que esos zampones amiguitos de Uribe estaban escondiendo billones de pesos en pérdidas y robos desde hace más de 10 años. Entonces, querido colombiano con más de 2 dedos de frente que acaba de ver este video, después de toda esta explicación y toda esta evidencia, ¿usted va a ser uno de esos mediocres que no hacen sino echarle la culpa al actual gobierno? ¿O por fin va a poner a funcionar el cerebro y va a entender que la culpa es de esa manga de corruptos que se robaron el país entero durante los últimos 25 años? Ahí le dejo la duda, a ver si medita. Nos vemos a la próxima. Como ya les he contado, tuve la oportunidad de vivir y trabajar en Europa durante un tiempo. Esa oportunidad estuvo acompañada de la gran fortuna de trabajar como profesional. Como ya he mencionado anteriormente, soy ingeniero, tengo una maestría, experiencia considerable y hablaba
Echelon sent out a firmware update recently that stops you from being able to use your bicycle the way that you want to use it unless you connect to their server. They stopped you from being able to use third-party applications, and surprise, surprise, they offer subscriptions. So if you want to be able to use it again, you can pay for a subscription to their particular service because you sure as shit are not using it with anybody else's. This comes from Roberto Viola. On September 10, 2020, I began building QZ, an application born from a simple idea. Open up closed fitness hardware and make it work with the platforms people actually love. Swift, Peloton, KinoMap, and more. Back then, Echelon devices, bikes, treadmills, and rowers were locked to their own proprietary app. You bought the hardware, but the experience was fully controlled by the company, and that didn't sit right with me. A better bike thanks to QZ. QZ started by adding compatibility with Echelon bikes, but I didn't stop there. I added auto resistance, letting users enjoy full integration with Zwift or Peloton, sometimes with a smoother experience than Peloton Bike Plus itself. Then came Echelon rowers, treadmills. QZ, which is his application, became a bridge between lockdown devices and the open fitness ecosystem. For 5 years, it worked perfectly. QZ helped people get more out of their hardware, and ironically, it helped Echelon sell tens of thousands of bikes. I myself recommended Echelon as the best indoor bike on the market precisely because it works so well with QZ. That's when everything changed. Without warning, Echelon pushed a firmware update. It didn't just upgrade features, it locked down the entire device. From now on, bikes, treadmills, and rowers must connect to Echelon servers just to boot. Here's how it works. On startup, the device must log into Echelon servers. The server sends back a temporary rotating unlock key. And without this handshake, the device is completely bricked. No manual workout, no Bluetooth pairing, no nothing. The server-based lockout creates 3 serious problems. No internet, no workout. Even basic offline usage is impossible. Why don't you think about this? This is an exercise bicycle that sits in your home, and if it doesn't connect to the internet, it doesn't work properly. This is not the world we signed up for when we agreed to let technology enter our homes. QZ was built to give users freedom and compatibility. My request to Echelon, I'm not asking for open source or deep level access, I ask for a basic fallback. Let the device send encrypted data locally, even without internet. That way, users retain basic control, and devices won't become useless if servers vanish. Sadly, this isn't new. The tech industry is full of stories where devices died because cloud servers were turned off, and I mean, I could read you a list from now until the end of time, and this video would be 2 hours long. What adds insult to injury is that when you read their FAQ, they advertise as a device that gives you the flexibility to use the software and devices that you want. Our goal is to develop the next generation of stationary bikes while giving you, your family, and friends the flexibility to use your favorite devices to enjoy the optimal fitness experience. Tell me more about flexibility when you push a firmware update to people's devices that forces them to connect to your server before they can do anything. It just so happens to disable their ability to connect to anything else, but at least they can pay you for a subscription. I'm tired of this shit. I'd like to start doing something about it, and we are. We're documenting every case of a company doing this. We're pushing back against it. We're working on the legislative front, cultural front, and regulatory front. Fulu Foundation is going to offer a bounty of $20,000 to the first person who repairs this issue. And I call this a repair because I believe that the firmware update that they pushed out breaks your bike. You bought the bike with the ability to use QZ. Check. Their FAQ says that they value having the flexibility to use the devices of your choosing. Check. The firmware update no longer allows you to use the devices of your choosing. Check. It's a bug. Reverse engineering. Notwithstanding the provisions of subsection A1A, a person who has lawfully obtained the right to use a copy of a computer program may circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a particular portion of that program for the sole purpose of identifying and analyzing those elements of the program that are necessary to achieve interoperability of an independently created computer program with other programs that has not been previously readily available to the person engaging in the circumvention to the extent that any such facts of identification do not constitute infringement under this title. Interoperability. You purchased the product because the product worked with QZ. All of your friends told you this product works with QZ. It worked with QZ when you used it worked with QZ when you bought it, and now it doesn't. Computer programs that are contained in and control the functioning of a lawfully acquired device that is primarily designed for the use by consumers when circumvention is a necessary step to allow the diagnosis, maintenance, or repair of such a device and is not accomplished for the purpose of gaining access to other copyrighted works. Repair. It worked with QZ before. It doesn't work with QZ now. It's broken. If somebody comes up with a repair that allows the bike to work with applications like QZ the way it did before, a $20,000 bounty is for you. Email bounty@fulu.foundation with your findings. I look forward to hearing from you. I pay my debts. When BWE was screwing people out of their software, I made a bounty offer, and I paid on that bounty offer. I will pay on this one as well. Every single day I come out here and I tell you how you're losing. You've lost your rights. You've lost the ability to do what you want, what you bought and paid for. This company took that away from you. And at some point, I realized that people are just going to be black-pilled and give up. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to give you some fan spin. Fan spin is the banner on my channel because I used to have this joke when I was fixing boards. I would see the fan spin and I would go, it's exciting. Even if the screen doesn't come on, even if it doesn't boot, even if it doesn't post, even if nothing works on that board whatsoever, just seeing the fan spin when it didn't spin before gives me that little kick of dopamine and excitement that I actually did something. It makes me feel like that I have the ability to win. And we need to start racking up small victories. I've been in contact with somebody who's very close to winning the Future Home Bounty, and I hope that he does. And when I can announce that, I'd like to be able to show you all that you won, that somebody tried to take something away from you and he gave it back. It's kind of like with rats. There's this idea that if a big rat is playing with a little rat, if the big rat always wins when they're play fighting, the little rat just stops playing. He gives up. And I feel like what I've been doing to all of you, I've been conditioning you to be the little rat. Every single day I come out here and I talk to you about a piece of hardware or software that's been taken away from you. We document it in consumerrights.wiki. We try to push back against it. But does that really matter if at the end of the day I just have a giant list of all the people who've screwed you over? I want you to actually have a victory. And I'm trying things out. I'm going to be experimenting here to try to get that snowball rolling down the hill. I don't want you all to feel like losers every single day. I don't want you to feel like you lost access to what you bought and paid for and there's nothing you can do about it. Let's try to start racking up some small victories. I get it. If I was going on Indeed or Monster.com and I wanted to hire a reverse engineering firm, I'd have to add another zero to these bounties to make it worthwhile. And I understand that. I'll be honest with you, 100%. I'm really hoping that the people out there that have an IQ that's twice mine, that are watching this every single day, that have the ability to do that shit, that are ideologically driven to give people back what they bought and paid for, see this and are like, you know what, I was kind of going to do that anyway, but fine, fuck it, and get pushed over the edge. Just being real with you. I want to try and turn this into something real, and I want to try to turn this into something that's sustainable into the future. I'm going to be working on that. In the time being, let's give Echelon bike users back access to what they bought and paid for. Email down below. Show me what you did. And let's make it happen. See you in the next one. Bye now.
We also have the duty not to infringe the IP rights in the process. It is in fact the manufacturers who have the relevant rights, not consumers.
Hello, guys and gals. Me, Mudahar. I'm sipping on a good old cup of coffee, ladies and gentlemen, right here this fine morning. And, if it's one thing I love is coffee. But if it's one thing I've learned about women is they really love the tea. No matter who you are, they love spilling that tea. Now, I never really knew that whole idiom until much recently, but the reality of it is this is an application that has skyrocketed the popularity, okay? So tea is a dating safety tool that protects women. Now, on the surface, I thought, this is a pretty cool tool. It exists, it is what it is, and generally speaking, the idea is you probably have used a dating app at some point in your life. The last time I ever touched a dating app was probably all the way back in college. Some kid told me what some guy that I was going with told me about Tinder and how you can just get laid all the time through it. And I accessed it once, and I swear to God, I think it's an entire bot farm still to this day. Now, I'm out of the dating pool, all right? I'm a happily taken person, and, it's not something that I really touch, but I'm sure that a lot of younger people probably get their first few dates, or maybe meet their soulmate through an application. But there's a lot of shady people on those applications, okay? And T is here to help you with dating safety tools. Now, what kind of stuff are you using T for? I guess you can find verified green flag men, okay? So this is an application just for women, okay? No men are allowed in here. No man whatsoever. Only women. Now, of course, you can run background checks on all of these guys. So I guess if you're looking closely, it might be harder to read. You're looking at things like convictions, marital statuses, and civil court records. Identify potential catfish. Verify that he ain't no sex offender. Check for a criminal history. Now, of course, this application blew and skyrocketed to complete popularity, okay? So to give you an idea, this is #1 on the App Store right now, okay? This is a pretty big thing. 64.6 thousand ratings, almost 5 stars. I mean, it must be a pretty badass thing. Now, if you look closely at it, I almost thought this was like a fucking joke app. Because again, this is the actual application. Get the T on your date. Does anyone have any T on Jake? So if Jake is on a dating app and he's not entirely there, these women on the application are going to talk all the dirty they need to about Jake. Now, I tried to see if this was verified anywhere. Like, does T do any form of verification on a lot of the claims that are made? Or does it just outright spew whatever bullshit that anybody wants to post? Now, I checked into T's terms of services, and they said that the contents are for informational purposes only. T Dating makes no warranty whatsoever that any of this information is accurate, and does not pre-screen content uploaded by users or verify the statement of its users. Now, this is a big problem, okay? Now, dating is a very personal thing, and sometimes breakups are tough. I've broken up with plenty of women, and I'm on good terms with women. I've had women cheat on me. I have had women ghost me, all right? I've had one relationship ghost me, one cheat on me, one I'm on really good terms with, and, one that I just don't talk to, okay? And that's just, that's how relationships work, okay? Breakups can be messy. Breakups can be amicable. Breakups are just things you want to move past as soon as possible. Now, if somebody on this application says that, oh no, does anybody have the T on Jake? Well, Jake's really good at making martinis. His speciality is a roofie colada. Now, of course, at that point, you might be like, whoa, I better watch out for Jake. But if T is not doing its job by vetting if that information is true, whether by a court document or a police report, or I don't know how they're verifying some of these things, you can probably see that defamation, or sorry, in this case, libel, because it's written, would be a pretty serious issue. So going down over here, they say, avoid dating red flag men. And again, this is why I thought it was a joke app, because again, it's like XOXO, gossip girl, share that tea. And of course, it's all like, here's the red flags. It's because he's married. Should I date Ethan? Don't date him, right? 68%. Date him, he's just busy. Ask him why only lunch? And of course, if you look at the reason, my friend saw him out with another girl. And yeah, this is just anonymous, unverified shit. Now, if you're with somebody, I guess you can do set alerts for your man. Want a heads up anytime Jake is mentioned in your area? It's like, you know what it is? It's the fucking Shardy for fucking women, dude. It's a gossip site for women. It's like Lol Cow Farm for women. It's, you know what it is? It's just 4chan for the girls, for the gals. Now, I don't know if their own feature of following your man might violate Section 5 and 6 of their use of their services and their terms, but literally reading that you must not use the information on the service to harass, threaten, or intimidate individuals. Context and intent matter, as we allow you to post and share if it is clear that something was shared in order to condemn or draw attention to bullying or harassment. And again, is it kind of getting into harassment territories when, you know, you have a whole network of gaggling people to like fucking follow someone and like report if they've seen them with another woman? I mean, it's just a weird thing to do. Like, imagine if like this was flipped on the other way around and it was like, hey guys, here's a picture of my girlfriend, please remind me and let's share if she's ever been caught with another person out there in the world. I mean, it's just overall like remove the gender from all of it, just remove everything. It's just a weird application to have. I almost feel that if a male version of this app existed on the App Store, it would have been removed before I even got a chance to research it. But because it's like the female version of it, it's suddenly like completely okay to talk about. It's trending it and charting at #1. It's wild. Now, of course, I decided to go even deeper and look at some other screenshots that I found were a little bit wild when it came to tea. So I went to APK Pure, which pulled a cache of the Google Play version of the application, and some of the screenshots were even funny. Like, here's the sex offender search option. Criminal record search, Jeffrey Epstein. Imagine matching with Epstein, dude. What the fuck? This is why I thought it's a joke. And again, phone number lookup. Here's the name, married, age, address. So you can just pull up like the doxes on entire individuals. And again, this is not new. Obviously, if you're scared of an application like T, I'm gonna kind of like I'm just straight up pull it out for you. There are things you can buy in this application. For instance, you can get a monthly subscription service. You can get T Premium, T Pro, reverse image searches, and criminal record checks for $8 a pepperoni. You want a private background check? $20. Bro, you can order private investigators on this fucking application. That's crazy. That's insane. Now, of course, obviously, how does a man sign up for this application to verify if the claims made about him are not true? You can't, okay? So for instance, I decided I'm gonna fire up the T app. So I downloaded it, installed it on a cell phone, and the thing about this application is you can't actually record the screen or screenshot stuff, okay? So realistically, everything on T must stay on T. And of course, this is a great method, but it really is completely defeated by the other method, which is record your phone screen with another phone, and then you can do whatever you want. So I was making an account on this, and I thought it was, again, every time I use it, I think it's a fucking joke app, right? Because I'm signing up for an account, and it's like, what's your username? The default is like XOXO Gossip Girl. You get to a point where it asks you for a selfie, and they say that they'll delete this file in 24 hours, and we'll get right back to that. They ask you for a selfie, which, you know, if you have a mom or a wife in this case, I'm sure everyone's got a mom or something. If you don't have a mom, I apologize for whatever reason. But generally speaking, you can sneak your way onto this application. Now, I'm not going to say how I snuck onto this application, but I did. And unfortunately, at the time of filming and at the time of really recording and researching, a lot of that application is completely disabled. So unfortunately, we're stuck in this load loop for now. Maybe it'll change at some point as I go through with this. But yeah, this was generally the experience. Now, to give you an idea on why this selfie was a bad thing, what gets really insane about this too is immediately right after, like this morning when I was like waking up to read this, I got into overdrive mode. Because apparently the application got completely hacked by a few 4chaners, dude. Make an app to dox a bunch of dudes and so doxing the women instead, bro. What the fuck? Driver's licenses and face pics get in here before they shut it down. And of course, they appear to show a bunch of these women's driver's licenses, which is a pretty massive privacy risk right over here. I don't have to really say that for it to be obvious. The T-App uploads all user verification submissions to a public Firebase storage bucket with the prefix attachments. So they give a URL. Yes, if you send T-App your face and driver's license, They doxed you publicly. No authentication, no nothing. It's a public bucket. So yes, this user is in fact absolutely right, because this is not a hack. And for a lot of people that were looking into this, they had found that, yes, by putting in that URL, you absolutely could find attachment files. And users in this situation did go out of their way to write entire Python scripts to effectively scrape this page. And now there's like a torrent floating around. There's just an entire batch of images floating around of these women's faces, possibly their actual personally identifiable information. So yes, again, unfortunately, I don't have any footage to show you to verify this on this video right now, but, you know, I'm not going to just ask you to take my word for it. There's a group of journalists at 404 Media that have also confirmed this as well through their research, so it's kind of safe to say that maybe things aren't entirely perfect in the land of tea. So again, this is a pretty massive security issue, all right? Obviously, it goes understated. So there's just a lot of doxing going on. This whole app is a fucking GDPR nightmare, which is one of the reasons why I think it's only in the United States as of now. If this was an issue in like Europe or Canada, where privacy laws, at least in Europe, are a lot more strict, this would absolutely put the developers of this application in the fucking crosshairs. You know, there's like a word called irony that I think applies really well in this situation too, right? Like, let's be completely honest here. Like, this is just some of the goofiest shit that you can read. The application that is doxing and is designed to basically talk shit about people that can't respond back just ended up doxing the people that were mostly interested. Now, obviously, if you go to the user base for like the T app, I think some of the user reviews pretty much show me the kind of insane nut jobs that have started using this kind of an application, okay? So I'll read you some of these reviews. Chai Nikki writes, okay, so boom, first off, I swear to God, I don't know what's up with all these emojis fitting in. I love the idea of T. It's basically Yelp for exes. You get to see what people say about the person you're thinking about matching with. And listen, that's a game changer for the girls who are done wasting time on smooth talking liabilities, what's it giving, real feedback from real people. So again, what they want is new features, like a video post, like a 1-minute clip max. Imagine being able to watch a quick little 60-second clip of the culprit in action. Woo! Receipts. The tea would be piping hot. I honestly feel like everyone involved in this application doesn't realize how creepy this is, especially if you kind of reverse the roles, right? Like, imagine if, you know, tonight I vibe coded an application called coffee or beer or something, and inside the application it was like, all right boys, let's just talk all the hottest shit we want about the girls in our like group. What if the app was called Body Count, for instance, right? Like, you know, just think of all the crazy ideas. This would be treated absolutely terribly. And again, the concept is not terrible. Like I said, when I started this video off, I don't think the idea of like dating safety is bad. You know, there's a lot of fraud that happens. You know, don't forget that a lady literally fell for a bunch of AI-generated Brad Pitt images and ended up siphoning the shit out of her money because she thought Brad Pitt loved her and he had like crazy super fucking butt cancer the entire time. So there is scams that happen. There are actual bad people. There are date rapists that exist on these applications. There are some real bad apples. There are some cheaters. There are some disgusting types of dudes out there. And the thing is, I'm totally fine with applications made for safety of these women at the end of the day. Because, again, when you're going out on a date with some guy you met through an application, you know, sometimes it can be a great experience. Sometimes it can be a forgettable evening. And sometimes, God forbid, it can be an evening where, you know, you never forget it for all the wrong reasons. And that's why having an application like this does make sense on paper. But the fact that T dropped this without any form of fact-checking, without any form of verification into claims being made, is such a defamation or libel minefield that I'm surprised it's actually going. I don't think this app might survive too long, okay? To be honest with you, I think a lot of the stuff that they're pulling and sharing around might be a data privacy nightmare, just given by the fact that the women who were signing up for this application had a lot of their identities just completely leaked and downloaded for the world to grab. Not because even T was hacked, it's literally because they just did not put any effort into configuring their like, you know, buckets, so that like all the information people were posting that was supposed to be deleted after, you know, 24 hours apparently, just still existed, persisted, people downloaded and ran with it. So it's a wild situation to just completely witness. And again, an application like this, like I said, makes sense. I don't mind seeing dating safety. I think it's super cool to see. I just think at the end of the day, all right, because they're not doing any form of verification, and there really is no way for any of the other parties to, who are being kind of defamed in a way, if the information posted is completely false about them, to at least offer some sort of rebuttal. And I'm sure there's ways for you to reach out to T and tell them to take down a post if you provide them like actual information. But again, it's just a headache that somebody has to go through. Now, if you're really worried about something like T, for instance, right? Remember, this is a phenomenon that's gone on for a long time. There used to be a website called The Dirty where you could just post anybody that you wanted and basically talk all the shit you ever
No
needed
one
about them.
anywhere
And it was a
who's
website
serious
that isn't
believes that
accessible.
cookie banners does anything good for anyone, yet we've been unable to get rid of it. This is the thing that really gets me about cookie banners too. It's not just the EU, it's the entire world. You can't hide from cookie banners anywhere on this planet. If you go to goddamn Mars on one of Elon's rockets and you try to access a webpage, you'll still see a cookie banner. No one in the universe is safe from this nonsense. It sometimes feels like we're barely better off. Like, web pages aren't that different from what they were in the late 90s, early 2000s. They're still just forms. They still just write to databases. A lot of people, I think, are very uncomfortable with the fact that they are essentially crud monkeys. They just make systems that create, read, update, or delete rows in a database. And they have to compensate for that existential dread by overcomplicating things. That's a huge part of the satisfaction of driving a race car, is driving it at the edge of adhesion, as we call it, where you're essentially just a tiny movement away from spinning out. Doesn't take much, then the car starts rotating. Once it starts rotating, you lose grip and you're going for the wall. That balance of danger and skill is what's so intoxicating.
The following is a conversation with David Heinemeier Hansen, also known as DHH. He is a legend in the programming and tech world, brilliant and insightful, sometimes controversial, and always fun to talk to. He's the creator of Ruby on Rails, which is an influential web development framework behind many websites used by millions of people, including Shopify, GitHub, and Airbnb. He is the co-owner and CTO of 37 Signals that created Basecamp, Hey, and Once. He is a New York Times bestselling author, together with his co-author, Jason Fried, of 4 books: Rework, Remote, Getting Real, and It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. And on top of that, he's also a race car driver, including being a class winner at the legendary 24-hour Le Mans race. This is a Lex Rubin podcast. To support it, please check out our sponsors in the description and consider subscribing to this channel. And now, dear friends, here's DHH. For someone who became a legendary programmer, you officially got into programming late in life. And I guess that's because you tried to learn how to program a few times and you failed. So can you tell me the full story, the saga of your failures to learn programming? Was Commodore 64 involved?
Commodore 64 was the inspiration. I really wanted a Commodore 64. That was the first computer I ever sat down in front. And the way I sat down in front of it was I was 5 years old, and there was this one kid on my street who had a Commodore 64. No one else had a computer, so we were all the kids just getting over there, and we were all playing Yer Kung Fu. I don't know if you've ever seen that game. It was one of the original fighting games. It's really a great game, and I was playing that for the first time at 5 years old. And we were like 7 kids sitting up in this one kid's bedroom, all taking our turn to play the game. And I just found that unbelievably interesting. And I begged and I begged and I begged my dad, could I get a computer? And he finally comes home. He's like, I got your computer. I was like, yes, my own Commodore 64. And he pulls out this black, green, and blue keyboard. That's an Armstrong 464. I was like, Dad, what's this?
The disappointment.
This is not a Commodore 64, but it was a computer. So I got my first computer at essentially 6 years old, that Amstrad 464. And of course, the first thing I wanted to do, I wanted to play video games. And I think the computer, which he, by the way, had traded for a TV and a stereo recorder or something like that. It came with like 2 games. One was this Frogger game where you had to escape from underground. It was actually kind of dark, like this frog, you're trying to get it out from underground. And I was pretty bad at it. And I only had those 2 games. And then I wanted more games. And one way to get more games when you're a kid who don't have a lot of money, I can't just buy a bunch of games, is to type them in yourself. Back in 84, 85, magazines would literally print source code at the back of their magazines, and you could just sit and type it in. So I tried to do that, and it would take like 2 hours to print this game into the Amstrad. And of course, I'd make some spelling mistake along the way, and something wouldn't work, and the whole thing, I wasn't that good of English. I was born in Denmark. So I was really trying to get into it because I wanted all these games. I didn't have the money to buy them. And I tried quite hard for quite a while to get into it, but it just never clicked. And then I discovered the magic of piracy. And after that, I kind of basically just took some time off from learning to program because, well, now suddenly I had access to all sorts of games. So that was the first attempt, like around 6, 7 years old. And what's funny is I remember these fragments. I remember not understanding the purpose of a variable. If there's a thing and you assign something, why would you assign another thing to it? So for some reason, I understood constants. Like constants made sense to me, but variables didn't. Then maybe I'm 11 to 12. I've gotten into the Amiga at this point. The Amiga, by the way, still perhaps my favorite computer of all time. I mean, this is one of those things where you're like, people get older and they're like, oh, the music from the 80s was amazing. To me, even as someone who loves computers, who loves new computers, the Amiga was this magical machine that was made by the same company that produced the Commodore 64. And I got the Amiga 500, I think in 87.
Look at this sexy thing. That is a sexy machine right there.
This is from an age, by the way, where computing wasn't global in the same sense. The different territories had different computers that were popular. The Amiga was really popular in Europe, but it wasn't very popular at all in the US, as far as I understand it. It wasn't popular in Japan. There were just different machines. The Apple II was a big thing in the US. I'd never even heard of Apple in the 80s in Copenhagen. But the Amiga 500 was the machine that brought me to want to try it again. And you know what's funny? The reason I wanted to try it again was I remembered the first time to learn, and then there was this programming language that was literally called Easy Amos. Like the easy version of Amos. I'm like, if it's easy Amos, how hard can it be? I gotta be able to figure this out. And this time I tried harder. I got into conditionals, I got into loops, I got into all these things, and I couldn't do it. And on the second attempt, I really got to the point of like, maybe I'm not smart enough. Maybe programming is just not, maybe it's too much math. Like, I like math in this sort of superficial way. I don't like it in the deep way that some of my perhaps slightly nerdier friends did, who I had tremendous respect for. Like, I'm not that person. I'm not the math geek who's going to figure it all out. So after that attempt with Easy Amos and failing to even I don't even think I completed one even very basic game. I thought, the program's just not for me. I'm going to have to do something else. I still love computers. I still love video games. I actually, at that time, had already begun making friends with people who knew how to program, who weren't even programming Easy Amos. They were programming freaking assembler. And I would sit down and just go, the moves and the memories and the copies, how do you even do this? I don't even understand how you go from this to Amiga demos, for example. That was the big thing with the Amiga. It had this wonderful demo scene in Europe. It's this really interesting period of time in the Amiga's history where you had all these programmers spread out mostly all over Europe who would compete on graphic competitions where you could probably bring one of these up on YouTube. on this thing, they would make these little almost like music videos, combining some MIDI music, combining some cool graphics, and they would do all of it in like 4K. 4 kilobytes, that is. Not 4Ks of revolution, 4 kilobytes of memory. And I just thought that was such a cool scene. This was obviously pre-internet. It was even pre-BBS, bulletin board systems to some extent. It was you swap your demo software with someone else by sending them a disc in the mail, like the 3.5s. And I was enamored with that whole scene. I was enamored with what they were able to create, and I just wanted to be a part of it, even though I kind of didn't have any skills to contribute. And that's how I got into running BBSs. I didn't learn programming then, and I wouldn't learn programming until much later, until I was almost 20 years old. The bulletin board systems existed in this funny space where they were partly a service to the demo scenes, allowing all these demo groups to distribute their amazing demos. And then it was also a place to trade pirated software. And I ended up starting one of those when I was 14 years old in my tiny little bedroom in Copenhagen. I had my, at that point, Amiga 4000. I had 3 telephone lines coming into my tiny room.
Nice.
Which was funny because, again, I'm 14 years old. By the time I was installing my 3rd line, you had to get someone from the telephone company to come do it. I get this guy, and he's just looking around like, what is this? Why the hell is a 14-year-old having 3 phone lines into their tiny little bedroom? What's going on here? Why are all these modems blinking red and black and making funny sounds?
Did your parents know?
They did and they didn't. They knew I had the phone lines. They knew I had the computer. I don't think they really understood that I was trading pirated software that was both illegal and whatever else was going on.
Oh, we should probably say that in Europe, maybe you can comment on this, especially in Eastern Europe, but Europe in general, piracy, I think, was more acceptable than it was in the United States. I don't know. Maybe it's just my upbringing.
Even that conversation
Yeah.
wasn't present.
Yeah.
I never spoke to anyone growing up in Denmark who
piracy's
had
wrong.
any moral qualms whatsoever about piracy. It was just completely accepted that you're a kid. You want a lot of games. You don't have a lot of money. What do? You trade.
Yeah.
Some people would occasionally buy a game. I mean, I once bought a Sega Master System, and I bought one game because that was what I could afford. I got Afterburner 2. I don't know if you've ever played that game. It's pretty bad implementation on the Sega Master System, but it was like 600 krowners. And I was making money at that time doing newspaper delivery. I had to do that for a month to afford one game. I like video games way too much to wait a month just to get one game. So piracy was just the way you did it. And that was how I got into running this bulletin board system, being part of the demo scene, being part of the piracy scene to some extent. And then also at some point realizing, oh, you can actually also make money on this. And this can fund buying more phone lines and buying more modems and buying more Amigas. Oh, yeah, that was one of the demo parties. These were amazing things.
What am I looking at?
Isn't that
Look
amazing?
at all those CRT monitors.
All these CRT monitors. Again, when I was 14, I don't understand fully why my parents allowed this, but I traveled from Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark, to Aarhus, this tiny little town in Jutland, on the train with a bunch of dudes who were like late teens in their 20s. I'm 14 years old. I'm lugging my 14-inch CRT monitor with my computer in the back to go to the party. That was what it was called. That was the biggest demo scene party at that time. And it was exactly as you see in that picture. Thousands of people just lining up with their computers, programming demos all day long, and trading these things back and forth.
That's kind of awesome. Not gonna lie, it's a little ridiculous.
It's totally awesome, and I miss it in ways where the internet has connected people in some ways, but the connection you get from sitting right next to someone else who has their own CRT monitor, who's lugged it halfway around the country to get there, is truly special because it was also just this burst of creativity. You're constantly running around. You're constantly surrounded by people who are really good at what they could do. They're really good at programming computers. It's infectious. It was part of that pang I felt then going like, oh man, why can't I figure this out? I mean, why can't I even figure out Easy Amos? I mean, it's kind of frustrating.
But on your 3rd attempt, you're a little more successful.
So 3rd attempt is when I start getting it. This is when I start helping out, let's say, building things for the internet. So around 95, I think it is, or 96, I discovered the internet. Actually, in 9th grade, that was my first experience. I went to some university in Denmark, and in 9th grade, we had this excursion, and they sat us down in front of a computer, and the computer had Netscape Navigator, the first version, or maybe it was even the precursor to that. And they had a text editor, and us kids just got like, hey, build something on the internet. And it was just HTML. And the first thing you do is like, oh, I can make the text blink by just putting in this tag and saving it. That moment. That was actually when I reawakened the urge to want to learn to program because I got a positive experience. All the other experiences I had with programming was I'd spend hours typing something in, I'd click run, and it wouldn't work. And I'd get an error message that made no sense to me as a kid, either at 6 or 7 or at 12. And here I am sitting in front of a computer connected to the internet, and I'm making text blink. I'm making it larger. I'm turning it into an H1 or an H2. And these guys out here, we just did it for like an hour and a half. And suddenly I go, oh, I can make things for the internet that someone in Germany can be able to access and see. And I don't have to ask anyone for permission. This is super cool. I got to do more of this. So I got into the internet. I got into working with HTML, and I still had all these friends from these demo parties. And I started working with them on creating gaming websites. I'd write about the video games. I'd review them. This was another good way of getting new video games was to walk down to some store and say like, "Hey, I'm a journalist." I'm like this 15-year-old kid, and they're looking at me. You're a journalist? Yeah. Can I borrow some games? Because this was when games moved on to the PlayStation and these other things you couldn't just as easily pirate, at least not at first. So I went down there, did all that, and that started the journey of the internet for me. It started working on these gaming websites, working with programmers, figuring out that I could do something. I could work on the HTML part. It's not really programming, but it kind of smells like it. You're talking to a computer, you're making it put text on the screen, and you're communicating with someone halfway around the world. So that became my pathway back into programming. And then slowly I picked up more and more of it. First website I did with someone, one of these programmers from the demo scene that was dynamic was ASP.NET. It wasn't even actually called .NET. That was what we started on. And then we moved on to PHP. And PHP was when I finally got it, when it finally clicked. When conditionals and loops and variables and all of that stuff started to make sense enough to me that I thought, I can do this.
So would it be fair to say that we wouldn't have DHH without PHP, and therefore you owe all of your success to PHP?
100% that's true. And it's even better than that because PHP to me didn't just give me a start in terms of making my own web applications. It actually gave me a bar. In many ways, I think the pinnacle of web developer ergonomics is late 90s PHP. You write this script, you FTP it to a server, and instantly it's deployed. Instantly it's available. You change anything in that file and you reload, boom, it's right there. There's no web servers, there's no setup. There's just an Apache that runs mod PHP. And it was essentially the easiest way to get a dynamic web page up and going. And this is one of the things I've been chasing that high for basically the rest of my career, that it was so easy to make things for the internet in the mid to late 90s. How did we lose the sensibilities that allowed us to not just work this way, but get new people into the industry to give them those success experiences that I had adding a freaking blink tag to an HTML page, FTPing a PHP page to an Apache web server without knowing really anything about anything, without knowing anything about frameworks, without knowing anything about setup. All of that stuff have really taken us to a place where it sometimes feels like we're barely better off. Like web pages aren't that different from what they were in the late 90s, early 2000s. They're still just forms. They still just write to databases. A lot of people, I think, are very uncomfortable with the fact that they are essentially CRUD monkeys. They just make systems that create, read, update, or delete rows in a database. And they have to compensate for that existential dread by overcomplicating things. Now, that's a bit of a character. There's more to it, and there's things you can learn for more sophisticated ways of thinking about this, but there's still an ideal here, which is why I was so happy you had Peter Levels on, because he still basically works like this.
Yeah.
And I look at that and go like, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, you're chasing that high. He's been high all along.
Yes.
Using PHP, jQuery, and SQLite.
I think it's amazing because he's proving that this isn't just a nostalgic dream. He's actually doing it. He's running all these businesses. Now, some of that is, as he would admit up front, is that he's just one guy. And you can do different things when you're just one guy. When you're working in a team, when I started working on a team, when I started working with Jason Fried on Basecamp, we at first didn't use version control together. I used version control for myself, and then I thought, you know what? Designers, they're probably not smart enough to figure out CBS. And therefore, I just like, no, you just FTP it up. You just FTP it. I knew they knew how to do FTP. And then after the third time I had overridden their changes, I was like, God damn it. I guess I got to teach Jason CBS to not do that again. But I think there's still way more truth to the fact that we can work the way we did in the 90s, work the way Peter works today, even in the team context, and that we've been far too willing to hand over far too much of our developer ergonomics to the merchants of complexity.
And you've been chasing that with Rails 8. So how do you bring all the cool features of a modern framework and make it no build, make it as easy to create something and to ship it as it was in the 90s with just PHP? It's very difficult for me to beat the Peter Levels approach of just it's so easy to just ship some PHP.
And it should be. Why should it be harder than that? Our computers today are almost infinitely faster than what they were in the 90s. So shouldn't we be able to work in even easier ways? We should be looking back on the 90s and go like, oh, that was way too complicated. Now we have more sophisticated technology that's way faster and it allows us to work in these easier to use ways, but that's not true. But now you can see the line I draw in my work with Ruby on Rails, and especially with Rails 8. No build to me is reaching back to that 90s feeling and going, now we can do some of those things without giving up on all the progress. Because I do think you can get too nostalgic. I do think you can start just fantasizing that everything was better in the 90s. It wasn't. I mean, I was there. There was a lot of things that sucked. And if we can somehow find a way to combine the advantages and advances we've had over the past 20 years with that ease of developer ergonomics, we can win. No build is a rejection of the part of web development I've hated the most in the past 10, 15 years, which is the JavaScript scene. And I don't say that as someone who hates JavaScript. I mean, I often joke that JavaScript is my second favorite programming language. It's a very distant second. Ruby is by far and away number one, but I actually like JavaScript. I don't think it's a bad language. It gets a lot of flack. People add a string of 2 plus a 1 and it gives something nonsense. And I just go like, yeah, but why would you do that? Just don't do that. The language is actually quite lovely, especially the modern version. ES6 that really introduced a proper class syntax to it so I could work with JavaScript in many of the same ways that I love working with Ruby, made things so much better. But in the early 2010s until quite recently, all of that advancement happened in pre-processing, happened in build pipelines. The browsers couldn't speak a dialect of JavaScript that was pleasant to work with, so everyone started to pre-compiling their JavaScript to be able to use more modern ways of programming with a browser that was seen as stuck with an ancient version of JavaScript that no one actually wanted to work with. And that made sense to me, but it was also deeply unpleasant. And I remember thinking during that time, the dark ages, as I refer to them with JavaScript, that this cannot be the final destination. There's no way that we have managed to turn the internet into such an unpleasant place to work, where I would start working on a project in JavaScript using Webpack and all of these dependencies, and I would put it down for literally 5 minutes, and the thing wouldn't compile anymore. The amount of churn that the JavaScript community, especially with its frameworks and its tooling, went through in the decade from 2010 to 2020 was absurd. And you had to be trapped inside of that asylum to not realize what an utterly perverse situation we had landed ourselves in. Why does everything break all the time? I mean, the joke wouldn't be just that the software would break. That would annoy me personally. But then I'd go on Hacker News and I'd see some thread on the latest JavaScript release of some framework. And the thread would be like, someone would ask, well, aren't we using the thing we just used 3 months ago? And people would be like, that thing is so outdated. That's so 3 months ago. You got to get with the new program. We're completely rewriting everything for the umpteenth time. And anything you've learned in the framework you've been spending the last amount of time on, it's all useless. You got to throw everything out and you got to start over. Why aren't you doing it, stupid idiot?
Is that a kind of mass hysteria that took over the developer community, you think? Like where you have to keep creating new frameworks and new frameworks? And are we past that dark age?
I think we're getting out of it. And we're getting out of it because browsers have gotten so much better. There was a stagnation in browser technology. Some of it was an overhang all the way back from IE5. So IE5 essentially put the whole internet development experience into a deep freeze because Microsoft won the browser wars in the mid 2000s. And then they basically disbanded their browser development team because they're like, all right, job done. We don't need any more innovation on the internet. Can we just go back to writing Windows forms or something now that we control everything? And it really wasn't until obviously Firefox kind of kindled a little bit of something. Then Chrome got into the scene and Google got serious about moving the web forward. That you had a kindling of maybe the browser could be better. Maybe the browser wasn't frozen in time in 2005. Maybe the browser could actually evolve like the development platform that it is. But then what happened was you had a lot of smart people who poured in to the web because the web turned out to be the greatest application development platform of all time. This was where all the money was being made. This was where all the billionaires were being minted. This was where the Facebooks and whatever of the world came to be. So you had all of this brain power applied to the problem of how to work with the web. And there were some very smart people with some, I'm sure, very good ideas who did not have programmer happiness as their motivation number one. They had other priorities, and those priorities allowed them to discount and even rationalize the complexity they were injecting everywhere. Some of that complexity came from organizational structure. When you have a company like Facebook, for example, that does depend on the web and want to push it forward, but have sliced the development job into these tiny little niches. I'm a front end glob pipeline configurator. Oh, yeah, well, I'm a front end whatever engineer. And suddenly the web developer was no longer one person, it was 15 different roles. That in itself injected a ton of complexity. But I also want to give it the bull case here, which was that some of that complexity was necessary to get to where we are today. That the complexity was a bridge. It wasn't the destination, but we had to cross that bridge to get to where we are today, where browsers are frankly incredible. The JavaScript you can write in a text file and then serve on a web server for a browser to ingest is amazing. It's actually a really good experience. You don't need any pre-processing. You could just write text files, send them to a browser, and you have an incredible development
And we
experience.
should also say that it can kind of be broken, at least the HTML, but even the JavaScript could be a little bit broken, and it kind of still works. Like maybe it half-ass works, but like just the amount of mess of smelly code that a browser has to deal with is insane.
This is one of the hardest problems in computing today, is to parse the entire internet. Because thankfully, for us as web developers, but perhaps not so much for the browser developers, every web page that has ever been created, minus the brief period with Flash, still runs today. The web page I did in 9th grade would render on a modern browser today, 30 years later.
Crazy.
That is completely crazy when you think about the amount of evolution we've had with the web, how much better we've made it, how many more standards browsers have adopted. It's essentially an Apollo project today to create a new browser, which is why it doesn't happen very often, which is why even companies like Microsoft had to throw in the towel and say, we can't do it. Now, I actually don't think that's good for the web. There is the danger of the monoculture if we just get a single browser engine that runs everything, and we are in danger of that. I love the fact that the Ladybird project, for example, is trying to make a new browser engine from scratch. I've supported that project. I would encourage people to look into that. It's really a wonderful thing. It's staffed by a bunch of people who worked on other browser projects in the past.
Truly independent web browser.
We really need that. But I can hold that thought in my head. At the same time, I hold the thought in my head that Google's Chrome was pivotal to the web surviving as the premier web development platform. If it had not been for Google and their entire business depending on a thriving open web, Apple, Microsoft, I think would have been just as fine to see the web go away, to disappear into being something that just served native web application or native mobile applications and native desktop applications that they could completely control. So I have all sorts of problems with Google, but it's not Chrome. Chrome is a complete gift to web developers everywhere, to the web as a development platform, and they deserve an enormous amount of credit, I think, for that, even if it's entangled with their business model and half of Chrome is code that spies on you or informs targeted ads and a bunch of things I'm not a big fan of. I can
on the technology front, the features they present, the competition they created, it's spurred on this wonderful flourishing of web technologies. But anyway, I have to ask you about the recent stuff with the DOJ trying to split up Chrome and Google. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this does harm?
Is a disaster. And I say that as someone who's been very sympathetic to the antitrust fight, because I do think we have antitrust problems in technology. But the one place where we don't have them, by and large, is with browsers, is with the tools we use to access the open web. First of all, we have Firefox. Now, Firefox is not doing all that great, and Firefox has been propped up by Google for many years to deter from exactly what's going on with the DOJ, that they were the only game in town. Apple has Safari. I have a bunch of problems with Apple too, but I love Safari. I love the fact that we have a premier browser running on a premier operating system, that people can't turn the web into just a Chrome experience. But I also think that the open web needs this trillion-dollar champion, or at least benefits from it. Maybe it doesn't need it, but it certainly benefits from it. And of all the things that are wrong with monopoly formation in technology, Chrome is the last thing. And this is why I get so frustrated sometimes about the or the monopoly fight, that there are real problems, and we should be focusing on the premier problems first, like the toll booths on our mobile phones. They're a far bigger problem. It's not the open web. It's not the tools that we use to access the open web. If I don't want to use Chrome, if my customers of my businesses that run on the internet don't want to use Chrome, they don't have to. We're never forced to go through it. The open internet is still open. So I think it's a real shame that the DOJ has chosen to pursue Google in this way. I do think there are other things you can nail Google for, and their ad monopoly maybe, or the shenanigans they've done in controlling both sides of the ad ledger, that they both control the supply and the demand. There are problems. Chrome isn't it. And you end up making the web much worse. And this is the thing we always got to remember when we think about legislation, when we think about monopoly fights, is you may not like how things look today, and you may want to do something about it, but you may also make it worse. The good intentions behind the GDPR in Europe currently has amounted to what? Cookie banners that everyone on the internet hates, that helps no one do anything better, anything more efficient, that saves no privacy in any way, shape, or form, has been a complete boondoggle that has only enriched lawyers and accountants and bureaucrats.
Yeah, you said that the cookie banner is a monument for why Europe is losing, is doing the worst of all the regions in tech.
It's a monument to good intentions leading straight to hell. And the Europe is actually world class in good intentions leading straight to hell.
So hell is the cookie accept button. They have to accept all cookies. That's what hell looks like. Over and over. You don't actually ever get to the web
Just
page.
on a human scale, try to imagine how many hours every day are wasted clicking that away, and how much harm we've done to the web as a platform that people enjoy because of them. The internet is ugly in part because of cookie banners. Cookie banners were supposed to save us from advertisement. And advertisement can make the web ugly. There's plenty of examples of that. But cookie banners made the entire internet ugly in one fell swoop. And that's a complete tragedy. But what's even worse, and this is why every world, this is the thing that really gets me about cookie banners too. It's not just the EU. It's the entire world. You can't hide from cookie banners anywhere on this planet. If you go to goddamn Mars on one of Elon's rockets and you try to access a web page, you'll still see a cookie banner. No one in the universe is safe from this nonsense.
Probably the interface on
It'll
on the
be
rocket.
even slower. You'll
Yeah.
have basically a 150-second ping time. So it'll take you 45 seconds just to get through the cookie banners from Mars.
All right. Let's walk back up the stack of this recursive tangents we've been taking. So Chrome, we should say, at least in my opinion, is not winning unfairly. It's winning in the fair way by just being better.
It is. If I was going to steelman the other side just for a half second, people would say, well, maybe yes. Most people do sort of begrudgingly agree that Chrome is a pretty good browser. But then they'll say the reason it got dominance was distribution. And the reason it got distribution was because Google also controls Android and therefore can make Chrome the default browser on all these phones. Now, I don't buy that. And the reason I don't buy that is because on Android, you're actually allowed to ship a different browser that has a browser engine that's not the same as Chrome, unlike on iOS, where if you want to ship a browser, Chrome, for example, ships for iOS, but it's not Chrome. It's Safari wrapped in a dress. And every single alternative browser on iOS have to use the Safari web engine. That's not competition. That's not what happened on Android. Again, I think there are some nuances to it, but if you zoom out and you look at all the problems we have with big tech, Chrome is not it. Chrome won on merits. I begrudgingly have switched to Chrome on that realization alone. As a web developer, I just prefer it. I like Firefox in many ways. I like the ethos of it, but Chrome is a better browser than Firefox, full stop.
And by the way, we've never mentioned Edge. Edge is also a good browser.
Because it's also Chrome in a dress.
But it never gets the love. I don't think I've ever used Bing. And I'm sure Bing is really nice.
Maybe you have, because you know what is Bing in a dress?
What?
DuckDuckGo. Which is actually the search engine that I use. DuckDuckGo gets its search results from Bing. Or at least it used to. If they changed that, that would be news to me.
Well, maybe everything is just a wrap or a dress. Everything is wearing a dress. Underneath, there's some other
There's some
turtles.
of that.
It turtles all the dresses all the way down. Okay, what were we talking about? We got there from JavaScript and from you learning how to program. So eventually, the big success story is when you built a bunch of stuff with PHP and you were like actually shipping things.
Yes.
And that's when the Ruby story came. So what your big love affair with programming began there. So can you take me there? What is Ruby? Tell the story of Ruby. Explain Ruby to me.
PHP was what converted me from just being able to fondle HTML and turn out some web pages to actually being able to produce web applications myself. So I owe a tremendous gratitude to PHP in that regard. But I never thought of PHP as a calling. I never thought, I'm a professional programmer who writes PHP. That's who I am and that's what I do. I thought of PHP as a tool I needed to smack the computer with until it produced web applications I wanted. It was very much a means to an end. I didn't fall in love with PHP. I'm very grateful that it taught me the basics of programming, and I'm very grateful that it set the bar for the economics, but it really wasn't until Ruby that I started thinking of myself as a programmer. And the way that came about was that the first time I ever got hired as a professional programmer to write code was actually by Jason Fried, my business partner still. All the way back in 2001, I had been working on these gaming websites in PHP for essentially 18 months at that point. No one had been paying me to do code in that regard. And I connect with Jason Fried over an email sent from Copenhagen, Denmark to Chicago, Illinois, to a person who didn't know who I was. I was just offering solicited advice. Jason had asked a question on the internet, and I had sent him the answer, and he was asking in PHP. And I'd send him the answer to that question, and we started talking, and then we started working, which, by the way, is a miracle of what the internet can allow. How can a kid in Copenhagen who's never met this guy in Chicago connect just over email and start working together? And by the way, we're still working together now, 24 years later. That's incredible. But we started working together, and we started working together on some client projects. Jason would do the design, 37 Signals would do the design, I would bring the programming PHP. And after we worked on, I think, 2 or 3 client projects together in PHP, we kept hitting the same problem, that whenever you work with a client, you start that project off an email. Oh, yeah, let's work together. Here's what we're building. And you start trading more and more emails. And before a few weeks have passed, you got to add someone to the project. They don't have the emails. They don't have the context. You send